Hello humans and other species. I'm Batsy, and today we are going to use 𝐋𝐢𝐧𝐤𝐬 to build some really nice decorations and details for our builds. Before getting into the cool designs that I have behind me, I want to set up the mood of the episode. By the time this video gets uploaded, I should already be in a convention. This week I also have many appointments to deal with, which means that my schedule to make an episode this week is impossible. So how did I manage to make one, I hear you asking? Well, I thought we could hit two birds with one stone. I still need to figure out the style for my base, and I only have the weekend to do the entire episode. So why not spend some time in creative, chat a little bit about life, while we figure out together what on earth I'm going to be building this season. That's kind of my current plan. We will see how well that goes. The style that I have in my head right now is some sort of fantasy medieval Chinese. But because we also have 𝐋𝐢𝐧𝐤𝐬, and that looks quite industrial, I want to lean a bit more on the steampunk style. So some sort of oriental witch punk thingy, whatever that even means. For now, I'm just trying some building ideas using minecart contraptions, since those can go through blocks. And so far I found some interesting ways to make buildings look more tidy. I started by making an aqueduct. I'm not sure why I wanted an aqueduct, but we gonna get one now. Overall the design is alright, but I wanted to make sure that the fences go all the way up into the arches. It's not a massive detail, but it ties up the design a lot better. It's one of those moments that a couple of pixels makes all the difference. I also tried adding a little log in here, which kinda looks cool between the lights. I feel like the arch looks substantially better with that small detail. All of this is thanks to a simple cart hidden underneath. Blocks that are part of a contraption can phase through blocks, so it allows some interesting stuff. And it's still very solid for us, it's not like we gonna walk through it. But this is kind of what I have planned for today. Figure out that oriental witch punk style and find out what cool things can be done with minecarts. This is a similar idea using the same concept. I was trying to achieve those spiked roofs, more common in Gothic style buildings and whatnot. My thought was that adding some Gothic details could help with the witch fantasy part of the style. If we go too far on the witch forest kind of vibe, the 𝐋𝐢𝐧𝐤𝐬 machines will look a bit out of place. So I thought maybe use some Gothic details for the center of the town with more industrial things going on. And the furthest it goes into the forest, we could make it look more mystic and fairy-like. These are a bit more complex to build because it takes 3 different minecarts to reproduce this fence. I'm not sure if I want to go this far for the designs, or I want to keep it more simple like with the aqueduct. But leaving aside the building details, I also want to add functional things. And let me tell you, this door is my new favorite thing in the world. It's basically meant to be one of those medieval doors that you can see in many gates and castles. I always thought there must be a way to make one of these. And sure enough, the solution always is minecarts. Unlike gantries, minecarts always stay as a contraption. So there is never a risk of it messing things up unless the minecart breaks. Then there is the issue of how to move the minecart around. But that is actually fairly simple because 𝐋𝐢𝐧𝐤𝐬 is actually quite smooth if we run things at very low speeds. What I'm using here is a mechanical piston with a couple of extending poles. So long as we don't stop it midway or run it too fast, it should always look quite smooth as it goes up and down. This is one of the coolest things I thought of, and I'm so in love with it. This is what I want to focus on this season. Making functional things with 𝐋𝐢𝐧𝐤𝐬 that have no purpose other than to look amazing, and most importantly, to be interactive. I want the world to feel alive and interactive. I don't want houses to feel like paintings in the wall, cool to look at, but you never going to touch them. But anyway, this is the plan for this episode. So let's dive right into it. And while we figure out the style, I wanted to take a moment to talk about a couple of real-life stuff. Partially because my psychiatrist said that sharing my feelings would help me deal with them. And also because, like I said, I barely have a few hours to make an entire video, and that means I don't have a lot of time for editing and for the voice synthesizer. Longer scenes are a whole lot quicker to produce and synchronize than shorter segments. But anyway, no one cares about boring editing stuff. The things I wanted to talk about are depression and social anxiety. If those happen to be a trigger for you, I won't blame you if you rather skip this episode. As for the two people left watching this, I think I touched this subject in the past. I started having depression when I was somewhere between 19 and 21. I will get into details later on why I don't know exactly when it started. It lasted for around 10 years, until I was 30, which was a couple of years ago. That's kind of my first frustration about that period of time. The fact that one day it simply went away. I went to a few psychiatrists until one of them explained to me how there are many types of depression and why I had a continuous depression for so long, and some reasons why it could be gone now, or at least in remission. As much as I can somewhat understand what she told me, it's a bit frustrating that I had no play on it. I never did anything to get out of depression. I never tried to improve anything. One day it was simply gone. The fact that it was gone was what made me look back and second-guess many things I did over the years and my attitude with life. And it's the same reason why I went to check with a psychiatrist, because it felt like something from the past wasn't all right. It's frustrating because I sometimes feel so powerless. If I would have never gotten out of depression, maybe I would have never realized I had it in the first place. I could have lived my entire life in that apathetic and nihilistic state without realizing something was actually wrong. That's why I don't really know if it started when I was 19, 20, 21, 22. I know that it was around me being 20 that I started to act and feel that way. I went from being more social and cheerful to completely shut down and close myself to everything. I wanted to share this powerlessness because a couple of weeks ago I started to have depression again. It's the same as last time, it came out of nowhere. The same way it went away, now it's just back. Now I find myself overeating again. Staying in bed for way too long, with close to no motivation to even take a shower. Which is also most of the reason why my recent videos have been so short. I have been having zero motivation to do anything. It's not like I have been playing games instead or watching movies. I have been laying in my bed with nothing to do or think about. Sometimes I felt motivated enough to put some music, so at least I can listen to sad songs while I'm sad. For some reason our brains enjoy that. The positive thing about it is that this time I do realize that something is wrong. I can clearly see that this is not how a brain should work. Even if I can't do anything about it, and even if that makes me feel frustrated and powerless, at least this time I can work on it. The other frustrating thing is something that I have also noticed with social anxiety. I don't particularly hate having social anxiety. By default, I'm already a very reserved person, which I guess that's quite obvious. And I'm extremely introverted, so it's not like I'm in many social situations all that much. But it's a bit frustrating that from the outside, it really doesn't look like it. Just like with depression, social anxiety looks entirely different from the outside perspective. I often look like a very awkward person that doesn't really want to be around. If you give me a hug unexpectedly, I will likely stand there like an awkward stick without knowing what to do. But that's a bit annoying because it kinda tells the other person, "Hey, I don't want a hug. Can you go away?" Well, I love hugs. I love being with my close ones. I love hearing them talk for hours. But that doesn't show. It's frustrating because between me being extremely introvert, which means that my social battery is generally tiny, and I can't hang out for more than a couple of hours at a time. And my social anxiety making me look all awkward and bothered all of the time. I just look like an antisocial that wants to be alone. And if that wasn't enough, then it comes depression. When I learned what depression really is, or at least long-term chronic depression similar to what I have, I've got so mad that day. I was mad because it doesn't sound or look like anything that I thought depression was. For the couple of examples I saw in my life, which probably both came from movies, so I guess that explains plenty. I thought that depression was like, someone is all sad and crying all day long or something. The reality is that most of depression is apathy, lack of feelings, lack of motivation. At least for my case, that's how it mainly manifested. I spent an entire decade thinking that my problem was that I never found anything interesting to do, that I never found a fun purpose to pursue, or something like that. And to be fair, if I didn't know what I know now, I would totally fall for it again. If I'm demotivated, if I don't know what to do, and have nothing interesting to aim for, my first thought would be that I don't have motivation, and that I need to find something that interests and motivates me. I would never think, oh yeah, that's clearly depression, don't you see? To tie things up about this part, It's a bit frustrating how a combination of things makes me look like a complete antisocial. It makes me look a bit powerless how I can never seem to make others notice the real me. I try to talk and show how I feel, but then I start overthinking on what I should say. And then it doesn't matter, because the moment I go to say something, I will simply blank and say nothing for a minute and look even more awkward than before. I have 2 hours of social battery to show people I'm reserved and introverted, but I love to be there and I want to meet people. But then I spend 2 hours in a corner without saying a word until my battery runs out, and then I really look like I don't want to be there anymore. It's a bit frustrating for sure. But believe it or not, I actually don't dislike my personality. I know my personality is beyond weak. I know I'm extremely introverted, and probably too reserved. But all things considered, I don't mind it. I like spending time on my own. I like being the secondary actor that simply stares in awe at the cool main actors. I genuinely like that. I don't want to be the focus of attention. I just wish that sometimes my feelings could be more obvious for others too, given how hard I have it to show them. The psychiatrist once told me that my heart doesn't know how to scream, and that I need someone who can notice my silent screams. I felt like that analogy was really revealing to me. It really made me understand the situation better. I need to learn how to make my heart scream a bit louder, as much as I need to find the right people that will be able to hear it. Sometimes being compatible means more than everyone being perfect. At least that's what I think anyway. I will be 33 in a bit less than a month from now. Throughout that time, I know my parents have tried endless times to communicate with me, and I can imagine the frustration of not being able to understand what's wrong or what's going on. I know that frustration very well, because them being unable to communicate with me also means that I failed to communicate with them too. This is a two-way street, and understanding needs to be an effort from both sides. Sure, if I find someone with insane social skills and expertise to know how to make me talk, then there is no issue. I won't need to learn how to express myself if they already get me. But that's not an expectation I can have, and at some point I know I need to learn how to express myself more. The sad truth is that I honestly don't know how to do that, or how to even make a little step in that front. I have a hard time talking about anxiety, and I'm not sure why is that. If someone asks me something like, why I have a hard time communicating, I will likely default to say something like, I'm a very reserved person, so I don't talk much. Which, as much as that is true that I'm reserved, it's nonsense, because the reason is that if I try to talk, my anxiety goes to 9,000. Being reserved has an impact, of course, but that's the real truth. That's the biggest part of the cake. There are 2 things that I want to make super clear as a disclaimer for this conversation. The first one is that this isn't me trying to collect empathy points. I will appreciate every nice comment that people write at any of my videos. But this is me actually trying to move forward and actually trying to deal with things. Of course I want to hear nice things, but what matters to me, and the point of this video, is to make small steps forward to someday be able to communicate a bit more. I'm finding it a lot easier if I write this down and synthesize it for the video, without imagining how many people is going to hear it. Right now it's just me alone with my thoughts, and that feels a lot more calm or safe in a way. The second thing I wanted to point out is that I have shared one small detail that frustrates me right now. Both anxiety and depression are very complex. There are many ways in which they manifest, and they affect every person in even more ways. Don't take any of what I said as how depression and anxiety looks like. There are tons of things that I haven't explained about it. Partially because explaining a decade of depression would take me an entire week, and also because that wouldn't help me. This tries to be an improving exercise, so I'm trying to focus on where to step next. I hope this video wasn't too boring to watch, and I would kinda like to think my small attempts maybe motivate someone else to try some small little steps too. Sadly though, this is where I need to leave it. It's been several days since I made these recordings, and I find myself minutes before I need to start packing for the convention to finish this editing. But I'm glad to say that this time, it was just me being a busy bat. I had many appointments and things to attend this week, and somehow, being sick and depression didn't stop me this time. So that's a nice note to leave it on. As for the buildings in front of me, I did learn a few things, and figured out a bit how I want to be building for the season. The carts are obviously super fun to play with, but I feel like they're cooler for more simple things, rather than trying to play as if it was chisel and bits, if that makes sense. Rather than trying to super detail with them, I felt like it's cooler to simply complement simple builds. I also figured out how I want to make the roofs. I wanted to go for small builds, and I think this design is really nice. I was able to adapt it for the gate too, and I can already see some variations of the same idea for different shaped houses. I feel like building the walls of the house is a whole lot easier, so I'm happy that we got down the roof first. All in all, this has been super helpful for me in many ways, and now I know exactly what materials to mass produce so we can start building some stuff around the town. I hope the Fangies enjoyed this episode. And for those that aren't part of the community yet, consider subscribing for more bat shenanigans, and maybe even leave a like. They really help the channel a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.